Hey there, everyone. Welcome to my channel. My name is Cerise Fairfax, and this is Storytime. More specifically, Dark Side of a Working Girl. If you're the type of person that likes stories and you just like to sit back, kick up your feet, and hear a good tale that's true and sometimes even shocking, then stick around. Give me a shout if you have a story. In the meantime, why don't you take a moment to subscribe if you haven't yet? I would appreciate that. Not only that, if you like this story when it's done, hit like and share with your friends. Comment down below and let me know what you liked best. Guys, this story is going to give you the shivers. Let's begin. Hey there. My name's Maria, and you may not like this story, but this is reality. And when I heard that Cerise was bringing out Dark Side of a Working Girl, I thought I would share. Now, we're going back many years ago when I was a working girl. I'm no longer a working girl, but this was like 10 years ago. A lot of you guys listening to this will know me, so I'm not going to say my name. And as Cerise suggested, I'm just going to say a name that you won't even recognize or even put in the same sentence as me. Okay, so I was a working girl, and my friend and I, we were a couple. Not a romantic couple, but we used to work in pairs. They call it happy hour. So you get two girls for the price of one, so to speak. And my girl and I, the reason why we used to do that was because we used to look out for each other. We always made sure we had each other's backs and we knew where each other were, and it just worked out for the best. Not that the guys that were coming here were dangerous or anything of that nature, because they really weren't. It was just nice to have a partner, someone to have around at all times. And plus, I was more of the shy one. But by the end of the story, you're not going to believe that. But let me get into the story. So, my girlfriend and I, we used to, like I said, be happy hour. And guys really love that because they enjoyed sometimes a freak show. And so that's what we would do. But one day, and I'm going back over 10 years ago, I had what we call here gripe. Gripe is just pretty much a common cold. And I remember it was September, and it was not too much of a busy time, but it was just about to get into high season. High season here is usually around October to May when a lot more people come. So I said to my friend this one night, I was like, let's take the night off. There's not a lot of people. I have a cold. I just want to sit at home and relax. And she was like, no, we need to make money for the rent. And I was like, don't worry about the money for the rent. We'll tell the landlord that we'll pay it next month. In October, when we knew there was going to be a lot more activity coming into Sosua. And Puerto Plata is a busy part, and always has been, but it is a destination for guys that want to come here and meet girls. And so she insisted. And she said, no, she's going to go out for me to rest. And I said, no. I started to take a shower, and she pushed me back into the bed. We just had like a little studio bed. We both slept in the same bed. Again, we weren't romantic or anything of that nature, but, we didn't really have the funds to afford a villa or much more. We were very young at the time. So she pushed me back in the bed and she said, listen, just rest. And so I did. And she went out. When she went out, she met a guy. And now, this story really hurts me because no one knew her the way I did. But in any case, this guy that she saw, he's paid for us before, and, we've been with him before. Not just once, a few times. I hate him. In any case, this is what happened. It was dead that night, and she wasn't getting a lot of action. And so he said to her, "Where's your friend?" Meaning me. And she said, "Oh, my friend's not here right now." And he's like, "Oh, so no happy hour?" She said, "No." And he said, "So if I get the both of you for $40, then that means I get you for $20. And she said, "No, it doesn't work that way. You still have to pay full price." And he's like, "All right, how about I bring you home and we work something out?" And she was like, "Okay," because again, she trusted him. She thought that he was a cool guy, and so did I. So she went with him. And he wasn't a guy with a lot of money or anything of that nature. He just stayed in one of the buildings here in Sosua. There was no guard out front or anything of that nature, just a gate on the door, a barred door that you lock and go into the building. This place didn't even have a pool. This guy didn't really have a lot, but she went in with him. And he did things to her that were not very nice. He tied her up and he did little things to her. And he put objects in areas of her body that I cannot say here. Cerise did tell me that she's opening up a Patreon and that the details of what happened will go on to Patreon. It just turns my stomach, you know. And so something broke inside of her. And she came back home. Now, the item that broke inside of her, she didn't know what it was because he had her blindfolded. But whatever he put inside of her, it broke. And right away he said, "Oh, whoa, I wasn't even pushing hard. I can't believe it snapped." And she said to him, "Let me up. Let me up now." And he was like, "Okay, relax, relax." And he let her up. And she said the pain was so excruciating. And he undid the restraints, and she left the apartment and she ran outside and she looked for the first police officer. She was bleeding. And the police went by and she started to yell and she started to tell them what happened. But this guy paid the police. Not only that, he knew the police and the police knew him. And not only that, my friend and I were known as working girls and not very respected. The police said to her, "You better go home or we're going to take you in." So it was nighttime and there was really at the time no hospital that she would even think about going to. So she came home and she was still bleeding. And I tried to look up inside, and when I felt up inside, there was something poking out. It was sharp. To me, it felt like a stick, like something wood. And I tried to dig it out. But it was jammed. Like, kind of like on the inside of her. And she was crying in pain and crying in pain. So I called my uncle. My uncle lives in Santiago, and he's a doctor. And he said for us to rush her to the hospital immediately because it could be something jammed inside of her cervix. And that's why it won't pull out. We just didn't know what to do. We were so young. When we got to the hospital took her in right away. She died. She died that night. Now, she did tell me who she was with. So the next morning, I got myself together. I remember taking a whole bunch of cough syrup medicine and just feeling so tired. And I just felt like revenge was necessary. So I took a few motoconchos that I know. Not motoconchos, but they do that as a second job. We call them tigres here. A tigre. That's somebody who will walk on the dark side. And so I told them what happened. And so these guys, they were mostly our motor conchos. When we would go working at night, we would have specific motor conchos. And they were our dudes. And I told them what happened. And we went to that guy's apartment and waited and waited. Finally, he showed up drunk with a girl, a working girl. And two tigres went up to him and they said, "Open the door." And he was like, "For what?" And so he was so drunk he didn't even notice me. I had a hat on. I wasn't dressed up. I just had jogging shorts on and no makeup on, absolutely nothing. Like again, I had gripe. I was sick and I didn't say anything. And he said, "Why?" And they said, "Open the door." And they showed him a tool. And he opened the door. And they took him inside. And they beat him up badly. He ended up getting rushed to the hospital. And the next day, I called the police. I called the police to tell them that he was the one that did that to my friend. But I couldn't prove it. It wasn't like I had access to a cell phone then. This was like 10 years ago. And I really didn't have a cell phone then. Everyone has a cell phone these days. They all are on WhatsApp. And we just didn't have that 10 years ago. Some people did. My friend and I, we didn't. And so it's not like I took photos or videos or anything of that nature. So I couldn't prove it. The guy flew out. Well, he got out of the hospital. He didn't even go back to his apartment. You better believe it. They were waiting for him at the apartment again, but to finish him off. He couldn't identify the guys that beat him. But a couple of other guys were waiting. And they were going to get him, finish him off when he got back. But he never did return. He flew out. He flew out of the country and never returned. And if he did return, I don't know if he did. I stayed on the streets a little while after that, and I'll tell my story a little bit more and some other things that happened to me, because it's not an easy life. And I don't feel bad for setting that guy up. And I still don't know what broke inside of her. Whatever that sharpness was. What would he be putting a stick up her for? What was it? The hospital didn't tell me. I wish I just told her that night, "Stay in, please." Till this day, I still feel bad. I should have said to her, "Don't go out without me." And my experience after that was usually alone. And I never had a problem. Sometimes I did, and those are stories more for the lighter side of this series, Diary of a Working Girl. But this is more dark side. I wanted to see this guy suffer. what he did to my friend, we did not get enough revenge. I can remember when they were beating him, all I did was just sit there. Well, I stood in the doorway. The woman that he came home with, she ran down the street. When they showed the tool to the guy, the girl let go of him and ran down the street. It was dark outside, so she wasn't able to identify anyone. She knew to take off. She wasn't the target anyway. He was. He was so drunk he didn't even ask, "What's going on?" He was just like, "What did I do? What did I do? What do you want? Just take the money. There's not a lot." And he went into his sock and his drawer and pulled out a couple of 1,000 pesos. "Here, take it, take it." And they said, "No, keep your money. You're going to need it." He said, "For what?" They said, for your funeral expenses." And he cried like a baby. When I saw the first bit of blood come out, I was so satisfied. It reminded me of just the blood that I saw coming out of my friend. And I thought, okay, now the fun begins. Anyway, if he did return, there was no way that I would recognize him because the way they beat him, they made him unrecognizable. And plus, I don't think he'd be so foolish to come back. Till this day, 10 years later, even though I'm not a working girl any longer and my life has changed completely and I have children and I'm married to a foreigner, if I seen him on the street, I probably would still go up and spit on him. I would go up to him and probably yell at him, scream at him. I don't know what I would do. My husband's German. He loves me so much. He knows what my life was like. And he provides such a good life for me right now. And sometimes I cry. I dream about my friend and I cry and he holds me at night. And there's a little German saying that he says, and I don't know how to speak German, so I don't know the saying, but he comforts me. And I just want to say that if it wasn't for my husband, I probably wouldn't be here. I want to say thank you to a lot of the men out there that come here because us ladies, we rely on you, the ones that are working the street. Most of us, we're young and we're working the street for some money. But deep inside our hearts, we really want to be saved. We really want a way out. And a lot of you that come here help us to do that. So I want to take a moment to thank my husband for not judging me and for taking me into his heart, into his hands, and into his home. My children now will grow and be wonderful. They speak 3 languages, German, English, and Spanish. They're so beautiful and intelligent, and they will never go through what my friend went through. But I do want to say this. If you are a man with an appetite for freakiness, just remember, that woman has a family. She has friends. And there's somebody that loves her. So you better be careful with her. And if you are, that means you're being careful with your life. And speaking of life, do you know, nobody even really knew this happened. Nobody. I had to keep it quiet because I didn't want to get in trouble for getting revenge. I told her mom. Her mom cried. We had a funeral for her and a bunch of her friends and the same Tigres. We got some money together for her mom because she always used to give her mom money. Her mom truly was grateful that day when we told her mom what we did. No one in Sosua even knew. Some people would come year after year and they would ask me, "Where's your friend? I always see you with your friend. You don't hang around your friend any longer?" And I would just say, "She's not here any longer. She left Sosua." Nobody really knew the truth or even knows now. Some things are better left unsaid, unspoken. The reason why I'm speaking about it now is because I need this healing. I just want to get it off my chest. You don't hear about this often here. My husband agreed that speaking about it anonymously can be good for me. I will be reading the comments, and I will be silent. But I've seen some of your comments and other stories, and you guys seem pretty cool. So I got a feeling that you'll understand my story. And I have a bigger feeling that you'll understand why I did what I did. Stay safe out there. Be good to the girls. You don't know where they came from, what got them to where they are now, and what they have to do for a little bit of money that you would spend on a meal. They could spend on life. Wow, guys. So there we are. Dark side of a working girl. Well, we're going to have more stories from this young lady. She has a lot more stories, and some of them are actually quite nice, and some of them are a little dark. But I just wanted to let you guys know that this comes out every Saturday, Dark Side of a Working Girl, and on Wednesdays, we do Diary of a Working Girl. And sometimes we'll do little specks of story time throughout the week. But join me every Wednesday and Saturday for these story times. And not only that, if you have a story, give me a shout, please. My information is down below. My name is Cerise. This is my YouTube channel. Please take a moment to subscribe, hit that like button, share this story, and don't forget to take good care of yourself. Bye, everyone. Huge hugs, loads of love, big blesses. Look at this. It is for your tea. So you put your loose leaf in there, close it down. There we go. And then you just put this on top. Beautiful. But here's something that's even more extra special beautiful. You can take off the bottom and put in whatever stones you like. It comes with stones. I chose citrine. There we go, guys. I am going to make myself a very nice tea. Copper top, copper bottom, wonderful apparatus.